20th century British philosopher, and one of Allen's main fundamentals is that what we see is not always what is. And what this means is that we perceive what we perceive because we perceive it that way. And all of our interpretations are slightly altered by our families, by our individualism, and by anything in our environment. And taking this picture, for example, up is what down is to another, right is what left is to another. But when we apply this idea of different directions to ideas in our lives, it becomes a lot more complex and a lot more difficult to interpret. And the first book that I read was The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. And what was so intriguing to me about The Great Gatsby was the idea of wealth. And basically, in the story, an idea and a mirage of wealth was built up in the character's mind. And what happened was that the wealth that they perceived in their mind didn't actually represent what happened in real life. And the main character, Gatsby, is chasing after Daisy for multiple years through the book and through his life. And when he meets Daisy in real life 4 years later, after a big journey to finally take her back, she doesn't represent in his mind what she should. And basically, this is a big illusion in our mind of what can happen when there's a mirage in front of us and there's a system of illusions that we cannot see. And the second book that I read was The Pearl by John Steinbeck. And The Pearl is about a very poor pearl fisherman in Mexico named Kino. And one day, Kino finds the most elegant pearl in the world, in the ocean. And he thinks that the pearl is going to bring him and his family all of the riches and all of the great benefits in the world. But with the pearl comes an evil. These evil songs playing over and over in Kino's head. And he thinks that the evil is going to steal away all that the pearl has to offer. And in the end of the story, Kino eventually has to throw the pearl back in the ocean because of all of the evil that's coming to his family. And basically, this comes back to the idea of what the illusion of the pearl represents and the illusion of wealth as a whole. And for me, the story ended up representing all the emotion that can be associated with illusions. And an emotion in the sense that instead of the picture that I showed before, where it was kind of easy to see the difference in direction, for Kino, he's blinded by emotion of what could happen with his family and what actually happens with him having to throw the pearl back in the ocean. And really what this project represented for me is that it's easy to be blinded by some of the mirages and illusions that are present in our lives, but ultimately it's important to recognize that that system is there, and when we recognize that it is there, we're able to individually interpret what we need to from that, and with that comes a little bit more of intellectuality personally. So, thank you.